Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Pregame Show. It's been over a week since we've done one of these. The Bucs were on a bye, but they are back and in action this Sunday afternoon. So we're going to spend this Sunday morning talking about Bucs versus Giants. And even though a game where the records may not show that these teams are good, overall, a very fun matchup as we hope the Bucs start getting on a winning streak to save their season. So a lot to break down in this one. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is my fellow co-host and the face that runs the place at PewterReport.com, SR, Scott Reynolds. Scott, you ready for the return of Bucs football?
Yeah, and the return of Mike Evans and Jamel Dean, too. That's going to be some really good news. We just did a Bucs injury update story with the latest information from our team sources, and that is dropped into the chat there, so make sure you check it out. It's on PewterReport.com. But if you're tuning in, I will give you the Clip Notes version. We know that Tyke Smith won't play because he didn't make the trip. That knee injury is still bothering him. And the team was really hopeful that he could have gotten better during. Appreciate you coming in, Rob. Thanks for joining us here in the first live stream. But the Bucs were hoping that Tyke Smith, because he forces fumbles, he leads the team with 3, would be able to go. But that's not the case this week. They're optimistic that maybe he'll be ready to go against the Panthers next week. He did not make the trip, and he was downgraded from doubtful to out. And Tristan Wirfs, no surprise, he has been downgraded to doubtful, and he's not going to play. But the good news is, Matt, is he was out there practicing this week a little bit ahead of schedule. And so the team is optimistic that he will go next week. And we'll see if his knee cooperates and if he can make some progress during the week. But otherwise, it looks like everybody that was questionable is going to play. That includes Zion McCollum. That includes Troy Hill. That includes Greg Gaines. And, of course, Mike Evans and Jamel Dean.
I have to say, I think I'm most excited for the fact that we're going to see Jamel Dean and Zion McCollum at corner together for the first time since that game against the Saints. And even in that game where Jamel Dean got hurt, it was very early in it. So really didn't even see it that much for that one. Real quick, a shout out to Tristan Wirfs as well. I know he's not playing in this game, but you spoke to the media in the locker room during the week as well, which you don't typically see with either an injured player or a guy that's like trying to get ready to play that week. So I appreciate him, being very candid and telling us how he felt, what's going on with the knee and everything like that. So no Tristan today, but you have Justin School coming in. But more importantly, Mike Evans returning, what that means for the passing game. Hopefully a lot of great things. I don't know how far down the field he's necessarily going to be running on every single play. And that's what kind of Liam Cohen mentioned this week as well. And like I said, to start this off, Jamel Dean, Zion McCollum back in action. I know it hurts with Tyke Smith, don't get me wrong, but I think we're going to get a revved up Christian Izien today. Because let's remember, Christian Izien, he's from Far Rockaway, New York. That's kind of close to the city. He played his college football at Rutgers.
That's right.
His game being at MetLife Stadium today. Kind of a hometown game for Christian Izien.
Yeah.
I imagine he's going to have a lot of friends and family at the game. So what better time for him to start than really in his own backyard?
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Matt. And the other thing, too, and Liam Cohen kind of tipped us off to this, we are going to see, after he didn't see a single snap on offense against the 49ers, we are going to see some Sean Tucker. And Sean Tucker, not exactly around the New Jersey area, but he did play at Syracuse up in upstate New York. So a little bit of a homecoming for him, at least closer than playing in Tampa or playing in New Orleans, where he had that massive game against the Saints. And then really has kind of been relegated to back to third string status. But I look for him to get an earlier start. The most action he had was in that Baltimore Ravens game. He ripped off a 15-yard run, which was the longest of the game in that particular week. So hopefully we'll see some Sean Tucker, and I think Bucky Irving's going to still be the lead back, but maybe he cuts into some of those carries that Rachaad White has been getting.
Sean Tucker brings explosiveness. When he touches the football, typically good things happen. He's a guy, and Bucky Irving is like this as well. He's a guy that just goes forward. He constantly is moving ahead. He gets tackled forward. He runs away from tackles, which I like. It's not a scaredy cat type of thing. It's just, hey, there's a whole patch of grass, or in today's case, turf over here. Let me go to that area and not have to do a spin move or bury my shoulder into a defender. That's not a prerequisite to play running back. It's important. A lot of times you are going to bump into guys, but I've always admired the way that Sean Tucker can just find the open lane, hit it and go, and not look back for anything else. So hopefully Sean Tucker can make an impact today. I think as we've seen already, and what will continue, is just contributions from all the running backs, whether it's Rashad White or Bucky Irving or Sean Tucker. They all have their imprint on the game in one way or another. Obviously, Rashad White a little bit more in the passing game more than anything else. But yeah, I'm excited for this running back group. They've been doing a lot of the heavy lifting, especially with Mike Evans out over the past couple of games, along with Baker Mayfield. So, hopefully it continues.
Well, and Liam Cohen's been pretty clear and forthcoming during his press conferences on Thursdays, very much like Dave Canales, just a little bit of a different delivery style, but both very transparent, which we love in the media, and I'm sure the fans, feel the same way. He said it's tough getting three guys that are very talented at the ball. Great problem to have, though, because there have been years where this Buccaneers offense, going back several years, didn't really have any good options at running back. And now they've got three guys. So,
true.
I raked Jason Light over the coals for years about that was his blind spot, his weakness, drafting running backs after the likes of Charles Sims and Jeremy McNichols and Keyshawn Vaughn and, Rojo, who had like one good year, essentially, maybe two if you count 2019. But he has found some magic here in these last two draft classes with Rashad White in the third round, who is really a good all-purpose back, an elite receiver, a very good pass protector, and then drafting Bucky Irving, who is the second leading rusher among rookies behind Tyrone Tracy, who was with the Giants, and of course getting Sean Tucker, an undrafted free agent last year. So in the span of just 2 years, all of a sudden, this team has a running game, and boy, what a great time to bring in Liam Cohen and Kevin Carberry and get this retooled offensive line together. And I don't want to get too carried away here, but this offensive line, even though it doesn't have the Pro Bowl credentials that Ryan Jensen brought to the table with his experience, and of course, Ali Marpet, there have been some people that have been in the building for a long time that say this offensive line here with an improving Cody Mauch, a potential future Pro Bowler in Graham Barton, Tristan Wirfs now really in the prime of his career, and Luke Gedeke, probably one of the top 3 or 4 right tackles in the league. This has the potential to be as good, if not better, than that Super Bowl offensive line that they had in 2020 and 2021, Matt.
That's a big time statement, but you know what? I agree. The future is very bright for this offensive line specifically. And sure, Tristan's not playing today, and that's unfortunate. And we'll obviously get into Justin School and what he brings a little bit later on. But yeah, if you take a step back and look at the big picture, look at the outlook of this offensive line. Tristan Wirfs just got that big extension. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be in Tampa for quite a long time. Luke Gedeke potentially may get a contract extension this offseason, but nonetheless, he still has another year on his rookie contract. Graham Barton just drafted. Cody Mauch, the second year of his rookie contract. All of these guys are under contract for quite a while for the Buccaneers, with the exception of Ben Bredeson. So if your biggest headache is we either have to sign Ben Bredeson after the season to a 2-year deal where he gets a little bit of a pay grade, but nothing over the top, or you're drafting another offensive lineman, or you do have Elijah Klein waiting in the wings. Who knows what his development will look like by the start of next season? And we'll worry about next season in the offseason. But how could you not like what you see from this offensive line that has kept Baker Mayfield upright for the majority of the season? I mean, outside of the Detroit game, which, by the way, the Bucs won that game, but outside of the Detroit game where, Baker Mayfield really got sacked a lot and had to run for his life, Baker's had time to throw. I think that's played into why he's played so well this season, and his passing yards are all the way up. And the run game, a complete turnaround from the last 2 seasons. So, if you're a Bucs fan, you're getting ready for this game and you want to take a peek over the fence, there's a lot to like about this Bucs offensive line.
Well said. And, I criticized Jason Light for missing so many running backs in the draft after all those years. He's finally gotten it right. He's done a really good job with offensive line throughout the years. That's probably been his best position, that and wide receiver. When you draft not just the best wide receiver in franchise history, but the second best in franchise history, that's really saying something, to have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and I believe that Chris Godwin's going to get re-signed. I really do. I think that's probably in the cards. He's shown that he can, that he can recover from an injury, and he attacks the rehab like nobody else. And this is not an ACL with all those ligament issues. This is an ankle injury that is going to be easier and faster to overcome. And he's a third-round pick from 2017. They have another third-round pick that they really need to see more of, and they really hope that this guy Jalen McMillan can really take a step in this game and get his career on track, because he's been a disappointment, and not just from a lack of production, but just from a lack of availability. And from what I understand, the players have kind of gotten on him. He's in a room with three vets, really, when you include Sterling Shepard into the mix with Evans and Godwin. It's time to grow up. It's time to take care of your body. You're a pro now. You need to make sure you get all of those preventative treatments as well as the rehabilitative treatments on that hamstring, so it doesn't come back as it did against Kansas City and causing him to miss that game and the 49ers game. But he is off the injury report and is expected to play today. And so with Mike Evans drawing a lot of attention and Cade Otton drawing a lot of attention in recent weeks, we need to see a big game from Jalen McMillan. It doesn't have to be 100 yards and a touchdown, but I think what it has to be, Matt, is maybe 4 or 5 catches for 50 or 60 yards to help this offense.
That would be, honestly, a huge upgrade for Jalen McMillan with what he's done this season. And I think it's important to understand why it's been disappointing with Jalen McMillan. Because, yes, on the one hand, he is a rookie. Why are we holding this rookie to a higher standard versus some of the other guys? And I think for me, a big part of it is not just because what he did in training camp and he excited everybody. And yes, you can make the argument that's just training camp. So what? Big deal. But I think it's the fact that he was playing essentially the same amount of snaps as Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And yes, they're going to do their damage, but there was plenty of room and plenty of opportunities for Jalen McMillan to do something. And he sprinkled in some nice moments. He had an end around, I believe, against the Ravens that went for a first down. He had another third down catch, but it's been too few and far between. And then you throw in the whole hamstring injury and the saga that went on with that. And he needs to pick it up. The Bucs' entire wide receiver room outside of Mike Evans needs to pick it up. It's been very little production from that position group overall. And hopefully Jalen McMillan can do something today.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we want to let you know that the Buccaneers, as it stands right now, they're a favorite, and they're actually going to be the favorite in every game probably down the stretch, unless something disastrous happens today. But they're going to be a favorite against the Panthers, not just next week at Carolina, but probably later in the season, and probably against the Raiders at home, against the Cowboys on the road, and maybe the Saints in week 18 in that season finale that might really be the determining factor for a lot of things, the playoff hopes, Todd Bowles' future in Tampa, et cetera, et cetera. The only game that they're not going to be favored in, Matt, is the Chargers game out there in LA. The Chargers are 7-3 right now. But the point spread for today's game is Tampa Bay -6 from BetUS. That is today's presenting sponsor of the Pewter Pregame show. Matt, what are your thoughts on Tampa Bay -6 from a betting perspective?
Yeah, even though I do think the Bucs are going to cover, I found -6 a bit high, considering that the Bucs are on a 4-game losing streak, coming off the bye, but so are the Giants. And I understand the Giants are only a 2-win team, but they made the big change at quarterback. So I think this line really speaks to how Vegas does not trust the Giants or believe the Giants in any aspect than necessarily what Tampa Bay can do. So I found the number quite high, but I guess if the Bucs cover it anyway, then what does it really matter?
Yeah, for sure. Well, just make sure that when you're placing your bets, you do so at BetUS and get 125% bonus in your first 3 deposits plus 10% gambler's insurance. It's a great promotion. Make sure that you use promo code Pewter to activate that when you log on to BetUS. Again, 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits plus 10% gambler's insurance. Log on to BetUS and use promo code Pewter and get in the game today. I will say one thing that BetUS does not have going for it is they don't tell you who's going to win the games, because I lost like $200 on my college bets yesterday. It was so bad. It was a bloody Saturday at the Reynolds household. So Unfortunately, that's one thing. And you know what? I don't think any of the gambling and sportsbook places, they don't tell you who's going to win. And that's a little disappointing, but you got to figure it out and put a little risk into the to the equation. And I guess that's what makes, sports books and wagering fun. This is going to be, folks, a must-win game for the Buccaneers. Let's keep it positive throughout the rest of the show here. But in 30 seconds, Matt, what happens if the Buccaneers just, for whatever reason, turnovers, they deal with another rash of injuries, there's more game management decisions, maybe they have some terrible calls that go against them, as we saw like with that face mask that wasn't called against Bucky Irving in that crucial fourth quarter at Atlanta. Matt, what happens today if the Buccaneers somehow lose this game despite being favored against Tommy DeVito and the Giants?
What will happen is the fate of Todd Bowles will be sealed, and he might not get fired right then and there, but he will be fired at the end of the season. And then the storyline becomes all about that guy on the screen right there. The storyline becomes, can Mike Evans get 1,000 yards? So that's the storyline. The Bucs season is done, and can Mike get 1,000 yards?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think the only way Todd Bowles could recover from that as a head coach is if he literally won every game going out, including that Chargers game, to get the 10 wins and then gets in the playoffs, and then this team wins a playoff game. I think that's the only pathway to him keeping his job.
There is the caveat of the Falcons falconing and continuing to lose. But even if the Bucs were to win out and they somehow win the division, do you feel good about Todd Bowles? Do you feel confident in Todd Bowles that once again he's kind of bailed out by the rest of the division?
That's a great
being
point.
Poorer than necessarily the Bucs going up and taking it. I don't think so.
No, yeah, you're right. And the fact that you've been a division champion, and let's say that scenario plays out, the Buccaneers win because the Falcons falcon, and that is a trademarked term that we had Pew Reporter here have created, the Falcons falconing. So we use it because it applies in just about every year. But that's the thing. The Buccaneers won the NFC South in week 17 when Tom Brady was here in 2022 and finished 8-9 to win that division. They won last year, beating the worst team in football, the Carolina Panthers, 9-0 at Carolina in week 18 after blowing a chance to win it against the Saints in week 17. So yeah, it seems like it would be lather, rinse, repeat with Todd Bowles backing into the playoffs once again for a third straight season. And is that the sign of a guy that's going to take you to the Super Bowl? Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think so. Let's get to this super chat from JC. Thank you very much for the $1.99 super chat.
JC.
Says, how many takeaways and sacks does our defense get today?
That's a good question. I like the Buccaneers pass rush versus the offensive tackles.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to say that with an asterisk. I'm going to put an asterisk by my comment because the Bucs outside linebackers have not done much this year at all in terms of getting sacks.
Correct.
Yaya Diaby has 2. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka has 2. Anthony Nelson, I believe, has 2. Chris Braswell has half a sack, so they have not really delivered at all. The defensive tackles have done most of the damage. Kalijah Cansey, 4 in the last 5 games. Vita Vea leads the team with 5. Logan Hall has even stumbled into 3 as a backup. CJ Brewer has 2. So I'm going to say that because Tommy DeVito runs around a lot, and I think he's going to be flushed from the pocket a lot, he will run into some sacks. I think this team can and should get 4 sacks, if not more. And then in terms of takeaways, Tampa Bay's done a really good job of protecting the ball on offense, but they've only been +1 in the last 2 games in terms of the turnover margin because they've gotten 1 takeaway against the Chiefs and 1 against the 49ers. I don't know that that's going to be enough. Maybe it will against a lesser team, Matt, but I'd love to see Tampa Bay get at least 2 takeaways and then be +2 on the road against the Giants. I think that's enough as long as the Bucs don't turn the ball over on offense.
I'm going to stick with the theme of optimism and talking about the injuries on the offensive line to the Giants. I don't know, it kind of reminds me of like when the Bucs played the Eagles earlier this season, and the Eagles had a lot of injuries, and the Bucs on the offensive line specifically, and the Bucs took advantage of that. I think it'll be a similar case. I'm going to go with 3 sacks for the Buccaneers. Okay. 1 by Kalijah Cansey and 1 by his buddy Yaya Diaby as well. I think the third will come from, a cockamamie Todd Bowles blitz where maybe Antoine Winfield gets it or something like that.
Right, right.
And call me crazy, but I'm going to predict the Bucs get an interception today. Maybe the fact that you have Zion and Jamel Dean, the coverage is a little bit different. And I mentioned him earlier, Christian Izium in his backyard. Yeah. Sometimes those things line up and it becomes a big moment. The broadcasters will lose their mind being like, the hometown kid makes an interception in front of all his friends and family. So I'm going to predict Christian Izium with an interception today. I think the Bucs get off the interception schneid and having a somewhat fully healthy secondary with the exception of Tyke Smith helps out the Bucs this week.
Yep. Well, we're getting some help here from some new members. We want to thank Jack Singer, who became a new Pewter Report TV YouTube channel member, as well as Payne Gusto. And we just had a new member as well, Sloth Mike. Thank you so much for joining us here on Pewter Report TV with our YouTube channel memberships. Also, one comment I wanted to get to before we dig into our previews here. And actually, we have Paul, a.k.a. OG Baker Bro, gifted one Pewter Report membership. So thank you so much, Paul. Greatly appreciate that. Where was that comment here?
Well, we do have a super chat in the meantime.
All right, let's get to that, and I'll find that comment, Matt.
Yeah, Redfish, thanks for the $1.99 super chat, says, FYI, Godwin had one touchdown in 2017. McMillan has time. That's a really good point.
It is.
Sometimes you got to have patience with these players. So, again, optimism. I like it. Maybe McMillan turns it around the way that Chris Godwin did.
That's a great point, and actually, that was the comment I was looking for. So I appreciate Redfish for coming up with that super chat. So there is exactly that playing out here, and hopefully it does, because McMillan, third-round pick, Chris Godwin, third-round pick. The Buccaneers see some similarities between the two in their games, and Redfish is onto something here. This is where Chris Godwin stood, and I'm going to read off his receiving yards all the way through his rookie season. Okay, really quickly. Game 1, 0 catches, 0 yards. Game 2, 3 catches, 44 yards. Game 3, 0 catches, 0 yards. 1 catch, 8 yards. 1 catch, 9 yards. 1 catch, 5 yards. 1 catch, 8 yards. 1 catch, 9 yards. It wasn't until halfway through the season that he had 5 catches for 68 yards. Then 2 catches for 38 yards. Then 1 catch for 17. Then 2 catches for 24. This is Chris Godwin now. This is not Jalen McMillan. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is Chris Godwin in 2017, his rookie season, catching passes from Jameis Winston, playing opposite Mike Evans. All right. Now we get into the last 4 games of the season, December. Remember, we're almost there right now, right? So 5 catches, 68 yards against the Lions. 1 catch, 18 yards against the Falcons. That's week 15. Week 16, 3 catches, 98 yards, including a 70-yarder against the Carolina Panthers in the second to the last game of the season. Notice how I haven't used the T word, touchdown. There was no touchdowns at all for Chris Godwin until the season finale. 7 catches, 111 yards, and a 39-yard game-winning touchdown from Jameis Winston to come back and beat the Saints 31-24. So that is Chris Godwin's rookie season. He finished with 34 catches for 525 yards and 1 touchdown, with a lot of that production coming in the last 2 weeks of the season, Matt.
Yeah. I mean, again, gives you a reason to believe for sure. Yeah. We got a couple more super chats to get to, so let's have at it. Thank you to Nick Citro for this $1.99 super chat. Says, on my way to New Jersey, get this winning streak started.
There we go.
Hell yeah, Nick Citro. Have fun at the game today. You're already on the way, so plenty of time to tailgate. Also, I believe Nick Citro was the one that did all those like Bucs Media March Madness brackets and stuff. That was great. So shout out to you, Nick, for always setting that up. That was a lot of fun. Thank you to RJ Beasley for the $9.99 super chat, who says, go Bucs. Right on, RJ. Go Bucs. Hopefully they can start what will eventually be a winning streak today. Remember, last year, the Bucs went through the tough times, losing 6 or 7, losing 4 in a row. Then they went on to win 4 in a row. Let's hope that part of last year comes true again this year and in this season. So thank you very much kindly for the super chat, RJ. And with a $19.99 super chat, Buck or Die, thank you so much. Says, Todd is who he has always been. Defense has always been very boom or bust. no pass rush and injuries has led to more bust, LOL.
Yeah.
I do feel bad, though. This team, healthy, was looking pretty good.
Yeah, and gosh, if they can stay healthy, that's been the problem, Matt, is they get these guys
Yeah.
back, and then one or two more guys go out with a multi-game injury. So if this team can just get some momentum, not just in the win column, but just on the injury report, and just have it be clean and no new injuries from today, that would be a win. You know how like in overtime in hockey, right? It's like if you go to overtime in hockey, you at least get 1 point. And then if you win the game in overtime, then you get the 2, right? It's almost like the same thing. The Buccaneers, they need to get a win today, but they need to get that extra point and get a win and stay healthy for next week's game against Carolina. That's what they have to do. It's because these injuries are playing a role in Todd Bowles' defense not playing as well as it could, and Liam Cohen's offense not playing as well as it could, right? So I know injuries affect every team, so it's not like the Buccaneers are exceptional or special in this instance, but they need their playmakers to make plays and also stay on the field.
Yeah, you can almost set your clock to a Bucs injury happening. Like I hate to say that out loud, but like I've kind of rewired my brain to be like, oh, Bucs player is hurt. Like, okay, we've seen this before and a million times. I'll take it one step further as well. On top of winning and staying injury free, I think the Bucs kind of have to win in a college football way of like, yes, there's not an algorithm that will give the Bucs a better ranking, but I think they got to win with some style points. Like beat them by 2 touchdowns, maybe even win by 20, something crazy, like something to really give them a boost going into this run that hopefully they can get on.
Well, Narav says Bucs 50 burger incoming. So listen, everybody felt really good about that Bucs Saints game. I mean, not in the second quarter when it was imploding, but in the third and fourth quarter when they were shutting out the Saints and racking up 51 points, and Sean Tucker was going off. So yeah, I agree. I think for the mental health of the fan base and also in the locker room too, getting a convincing win against a lesser team, a team that you should drub on paper, and not just this week, but also in Carolina too. It's not going to be an easy game next week against Carolina. Carolina's won 2 games. They have a bye week this week. Dave Canales knows Todd Bowles intimately and vice versa. And keep in mind with the Panthers, the Buccaneers beat the Panthers 21-18, a very close game in Tampa, and then won 9-0. Again, a very close game in Carolina. Remember, the Panthers had a touchdown called back in that game, and they had 3 dropped interceptions of Baker Mayfield passes in the first half. So the Panthers game is going to be closer than you think, but this game, I think, should be a runaway win, but I don't think it's going to be, unfortunately.
Yeah, Panthers play the Chiefs today, so it'll take a Herculean effort.
Oh yeah, that's right.
For the Panthers to get their third win in a row. But hey, they are on a winning streak going into the game. So.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get to our key matchups of the day presented by BetUS. The Bucs offense versus the Giants defense. Let's start there, right? Justin School versus Brian Burns. Justin School has played 4.5 games. He played 4 at right tackle for Luke Gedeke, and then played more than half the game last week for Tristan Wirfs. Brian Burns is a player that the Bucs have faced plenty when he was with the Carolina Panthers. Didn't really do a lot of damage against the likes of Donovan Smith back in the days, but how do you see this matchup going?
Yeah, it is interesting. Brian Burns has gone up against the Bucs so many times, but hasn't necessarily, fared the way that he wanted to. With all that said, he's on a new team now. It's a home game for the Giants, and he's got the help of Dexter Lawrence and Ojulari on the other side. So some other weapons on the defensive line that the Bucs also have to deal with, as opposed to, his time in Carolina. A lot of the times it was just Brian Burns that you worried about, which I think helped dictate some protection and things of that nature. I'm going to go with Brian Burns. I know Justin School has really picked it up since that Lions game when he had to go in and start. But he is a backup offensive tackle for a reason. Brian Burns is one of the biggest moves in the offseason. I still think he's one of the better pass rushers in the league. He's certainly not Myles Garrett or TJ Watt, who squared off in that Thursday night game. But Burns is a good player, so I'll take him.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the push on this. I'm gonna give Justin School a little bit of credit, and I wouldn't be surprised if Liam Cohen comes out and runs the ball right at Brian Burns. School is actually a better run blocker than he is a pass protector. And if you run at Brian Burns, who's not the biggest guy, you might be able to wear him out. So when you need to pass the ball, he doesn't have as much gas left in the tank. So I think this is going to be a push. I think School, I'm going to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here, and we'll see what happens. Although it only takes one bad play, and Brian Burns could get the win in this particular matchup. Tight end Cade Otton versus Bobby Okereke. Okereke is one of the better coverage linebackers. He's not having the season that he's had in the past in terms of coverage, but he's a very athletic linebacker. He's a team captain. Here you see him celebrating with Brian Burns. And he's definitely a formidable linebacker. And we saw what happened in the second half when Fred Warner really put the clamps down on Cade Otton. Cade Otton didn't have a single catch in the second half. But how do you see this matchup going between Cade Otton now that he has Mike Evans back? Maybe he draws some more attention, but against Bobby Okereke.
It's funny. Sometimes there are just players that stick with you for whatever reason. And I still remember being fascinated with Bobby Okereke going to the Senior Bowl, as we still do. But him coming out of Stanford, I don't know. I've just always followed his career ever since. I think he's a really smart player. He's very cerebral. And I don't know. I've just been a big fan of Bobby Okereke. So because of that, I'm going to take him. I think Cade Otton will have his moments. I still think he'll be very important in the offense. I just really have a lot of respect for the former Stanford inside linebacker. So
I'm with you. And I felt the exact same way coming out of Stanford. I think we might have even had him as a Bucs best bet that year. I'm not sure, but I remember liking him too at the Senior Bowl, and he's a damn good player. I kind of want to say push because I want to give Cade some of his respect. I just don't know that he's going to go off today. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'll go with Bobby Okereke as well. And next we've got Graham Barton versus Dexter Lawrence, the Giants defensive tackle. This is probably like the marquee matchup here in the trenches between these guys. This is one of the best that's doing it right now. 9 sacks from the defensive tackle position versus Graham Barton, who has had some incredible plays and also some incredible gaps as well as he's learning how to play center in the NFL after playing left tackle at Duke. How do you see this matchup, Matt?
I have a lot of respect for Graham Barton, but we're talking about one of the best defensive tackles in the league, 9 sacks on the season. So I'm going to go with Dexter Lawrence just because he can disrupt the game very quickly and could really ruin a lot of the plans that the Bucs have today, particularly in the passing game. So this will be the toughest matchup Graham Barton has had this season. He's gone up against some other tough ones for sure. But Dexter Lawrence is one of the top guys for a reason. So I'll have him.
Yeah, I agree. I think this might be a really tough game for Graham Barton. And the thing with the Giants is they deploy their defensive tackle, their nose tackle, in this case, Dexter Lawrence, and they shade him over the center. It makes it very difficult the way they line up, and you'll see this in the game, for guards to help because they have their own defensive linemen to have to worry about. So typically, if you're playing a 4-man front, you can pretty much call for a double team every time and block a guy like that, Dexter Lawrence. That's going to be difficult today with the way that the Giants align their defensive front. It's going to create a lot of one-on-one matchups up front with the guards and also with Graham Barton, the rookie center. So I'm with you. I take Dexter Lawrence in this one. Sterling Shepard, the former Giant, makes his return to the Meadowlands, East Rutherford Stadium, MetLife Stadium, and he's probably going to have revenge on his mind after the Giants didn't re-sign him. He's going to go up against a very bright young cornerback, nickel corner, Drew Phillips, who was with Liam Cohen in Kentucky. Very highly sought after player in the draft, was a day 2 guy, and he's had a really good rookie season so far. How do you see the old man versus the young rookie here in this particular matchup in the slot?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully having Mike Evans back will, lift the tides of all the rest of the wide receivers, and in this case, Sterling Shepard specifically. Hopefully there is a little bit of a revenge game factor with him going back to MetLife. But with that said, I don't know. Sterling Shepard really hasn't shown me much in the past couple of games. He has some moments here and there, but there's not the consistency. There's not the on-paper chemistry with Baker Mayfield going back to Oklahoma, as we've highlighted several times. So I'm going to go with Drew Phillips. It's just we're going on like hope and optimism with these Bucs wide receivers and not tangible things they've put on tape and
Yeah.
statistics they've come up with. So it's got to be Drew Phillips.
I agree with you, with the exception of today with Sterling Shepard coming back to play the Giants, his former team.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have a little bit of extra in the tank, and I do like Drew Phillips. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a push, though, so I'm going to go with the push. I think the rookie's going to make some plays, maybe a pass breakup, hopefully not an interception, but I also think Sterling Shepard maybe gets a touchdown on the rookie here. So I could see this being a back and forth affair. I'm going to give it a push. We'll round out things with the main attraction, Mike Evans versus Deonte Banks, a former first-round pick out of Maryland. Really good cornerback versus one of the best to ever do it at wide receiver. I think the only thing making this a runaway win for Mike is just that hamstring. He's not 100%. He's going to play today. What are your thoughts on how Mike Evans might fare against Deonte Banks and maybe some double coverage that he'll see today?
Yeah, it has to be Mike Evans all day. But with that said, I think we'll see like a different style of game for Mike Evans. As Liam Cohen alluded to, maybe not too many shots down the field, but I do think Mike will get peppered with the football a fair amount, which can kind of take away those double teams if you're getting the ball out quickly and getting Mike on some slants or, some 8 to 10 yard routes, not anything like too crazy where the safety, if they try to bracket him and, the safety is not going to be up at the line of scrimmage or anything like that. So I expect a high volume of targets and hopefully receptions for Mike Evans. Maybe not like if he gets a high number in receiving yards, which we all hope so. We want that record to continue.
Yep.
It'll be off of like 8 to 10 catches. It won't be like 4 catches for 95 yards or something like that. It'll be a high volume game for Mike Evans.
I agree. I think you're right. And again, Liam Cohen kind of alluded to that. He's not going to be sending him vertical where that hamstring is really going to be tested. I think you might see him in the slot today as one of those slot receivers in the bunch formation, trying to get some free releases, being used as an inside receiver as well as playing some split end. I'm with you. I like Mike Evans, and I like him a lot, just like I like Walk-Ons a lot, which is a great place to go to watch today's game.
Game day at Walk-Ons is just different, and it starts with the way our teammates prep each dish from our scratch menu. No shortcuts. We are hand-cutting every single mozzarella log straight from the block, hand-peeling, stuffing, and bacon wrapping each voodoo shrimp, hand-carving ribeyes for our steaks and po' boys, and hand-slicing, then tossing our boneless wings in our house-made sauces. With wall-to-wall TVs and food like this, why would you want to watch anywhere else? That's game day, the Walk-Ons way.
Matt, I'm pretty sure at this point Drew Brees is now a Bucs fan, right? Why wouldn't you be? The Bucs have a better record. They beat the Saints earlier in the season. He threw his last pass of his NFL career to Mike Edwards, who's now back in Tampa. There's a lot of reasons for him to like the Buccaneers. Oh, he also advertises with Pewter Report, so we appreciate that. Make sure you get to Walk-Ons, folks, Saturdays and Sundays. It's the place to go to watch the games, whether it's college or pro. Pints are $4.49, 22-ounce pours, $5.99, Michelob Ultra, Bud Light, and Budweiser, $5 Heineken Silver, 12-ounce cans. That's a great price, as well as $5 neutral assorted flavors. And then make sure you get to Walk-Ons for happy hour. Monday, 3 to close, great place to watch Monday Night Football. Tuesday, all day, including $5 Tito's happy hours. And then a pair of happy hours, 3 to 6 and 9 to close on Wednesday and Thursday. And then a final happy hour, Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. 3 locations in the Tampa Bay area, in Lakeland, in Wesley Chapel up here in my neck of the woods, as well as in Midtown Tampa, down there by Matt.
Yeah, let's get to this next super chat. Thank you again to Buck or Die. Another 1999 super chat says, "Excuse my Bucs PTSD, fan since 97, but how close are we from the Bucs going into the pooper? I have been a fan since 1997, and I just don't want this team going back to the 2010s version of this franchise." I don't think the Bucs are close at all. I mean, take out like the record and what's going on this season. Defensively, which has been the worst side, you still at least have a lot of core guys, Kalijah Cansey's young. Zion McCollum has another year on his deal. Antoine Winfield Jr., you're just signed to an extension.
Yeah.
Yaya Diaby, I'm not going to call him a core piece just yet because he needs to pick it up this season, but you have young edge rushers ready to go. Chris Braswell, too. So you have pieces there. And then offensively, you have Baker for 2 more seasons. after this. You have Mike Evans under contract for another season. We talked glowingly about the offensive line and how young they are and how they're going to be together for a while. So, yeah, you need to figure out Chris Godwin, but also you have Bucky Irving, who's dominated as a rookie this year, Sean Tucker, a year 2 player, and another season for Rashad White. So talent-wise, it's all there. They have to put it together, but I don't see this team necessarily like crumbling by any.
I agree with you. I think a lot of this is coaching. I think the offensive coaches have got a lot more faith in. I think they're better. I think these defensive coaches, if Todd Bowles is going to stay, he's got to make some changes to his staff. These players are not developing the way they should. There's too much talent that has been undeveloped. And then you look at the game management decisions, right? I mean, this team should have at worst split with the Falcons, right? Win one of those games, not lose two. That came down to some poor coaching decisions there, some poor play calls. And then I think either the Kansas City game, which went to overtime, or the 49ers game. One of those games should have been a win, right? So then you're looking at a 6-4 team. Is much better position that probably has the lead in the NFC South, as opposed to a team that's 4-6 and really, despite the injuries, has underachieved. So I don't think that they're far away at all. Matter of fact, I think next year you're going to see the Blazers open up the checkbook and they're going to ramp this thing up, as I've said all along. And everybody in Pewter Report, we all said 10-7 this season, not collectively, but individually. That's where each one of our predictions. We did not say Super Bowl this year. We had the feeling that next year is going to be the year. This is going to be the year the Cade Ottens, the Kalijah Kansis, the Yaya Diabis, the Rashad Whites, all those guys kind of level up. Then you have guys like Jalen McMillan, Chris Braswell, Graham Barton, Bucky Irving. They all get that first taste of what the NFL is, ready for year 2. Then you add another draft class and some free agent moves, and I think this team will be well positioned to really make a legitimate Super Bowl run next year. It just depends on who the coach is.
Yeah, and hopefully that free agency, I know the Bucs don't usually make the typical splash move, but hopefully this year will be a little different.
Yeah, I agree. Let's get back to our key matchups and round out the show with the Bucs defense versus the Giants offense. Matt, you mentioned Kalijah Kansi potentially having a big day today. He's going to go up against their right guard, Greg Van Roten, who, the Giants offensive line is not tremendous. They're without Andrew Thomas, their franchise left tackle. He's an injured reserve. Evan Neal is a tremendous run blocker. He has a 93.4 run blocking grade coming out of Alabama. He's terrible in pass protection. He has a 50.2 pass protection grade. Then the next offensive lineman, kind of like on the Pro Football Focus list, is Greg Van Roten, who is probably their best interior offensive lineman. 69 grade, 69.7 run block, 64 pass block grade. So he's good, but not great. But how do you see this matchup between Kansi and Van Roten?
I mean, I predicted a sack for Kalijah Kansi, so I guess I have to take him in this one, right? I just feel like Kansi has really gotten into a groove. Yes, they had off last week, but he's really found his footing since coming back from that injury that kept him out at the beginning of the season. I think we'll see an explosive day from Kalijah Kansi, specifically in the pass rush area, but that's where they've needed him the most. So I'll go with Kalijah Kansi.
Yeah, I will too. I'll take Kalijah in this matchup. The next matchup is the Bucs inside linebackers, and that's not going to be just KJ Britt and Levante David. It's also going to be Vi Jones, who is getting his third elevation from the practice squad. Now, he was only used for 3 defensive plays in Kansas City, and he was not used at all on defense against the 49ers in the last game. They went with J.J. Russell as that platoon guy, but maybe with another week off during the bye week and another week of practice, maybe Vi Jones gets some more time in coverage for KJ Britt, who's not been good. But we're kind of talking about how they're going to stop Tyrone Tracy, who's been averaging 5.1 yards per carry. He's busted off a couple of runs. He's got 3 100-yard games this season, and he actually has taken the lead over from Bucky Irving in terms of the leading rusher among rookies. How do you see this matchup, man?
Yeah, I just have this feeling in today's game the Bucs will jump out to a lead and the Giants won't be able to run the football the way that they want to. Yeah. I think the Bucs are going to put a lot of focus and attention on stopping the run to force Tommy DeVito to throw the football. So because of that, I'm going to go with a push because it's tough to truly put your faith and trust into the Bucs inside linebackers. So because of that, I'll take a push.
Yep. I will too. I think this is a push situation as well. The Bucs cornerbacks versus Malik Neighbors. Now he popped up on the injury report with a hamstring injury, and we'll see if he's going to go today. But here's the thing: Malik Neighbors, if he is going to play, he is the best weapon that they have in the passing game. He's the most explosive receiver, 4.35 speed coming out of LSU. The problem is they really haven't been able to get him connected with their quarterbacks deep. He only is averaging 10 yards per catch. But when you've got two cornerbacks in Zion McCollum and Jamel Dean coming off of hamstring injuries, maybe this is the week where they send Malik Neighbors deep to test those hamstrings early and see if Zion or Jamel is truly over that. Malik Neighbors will see about equal time against Dean and McCollum if he plays. How do you like this matchup, Matt?
Yeah, so excited once again for Jamel Dean to be back and to have Zion and Jamel working together. And you got the hamstring injuries for the Bucs corners, this groin injury with Malik Neighbors. I'm curious how much that will limit him with what he's really able to do. Neighbors came onto the scene pretty quickly, but he's kind of mellowed out a little bit to a degree. And sure, a lot of that has to do with the quarterback play for the Giants. I'm going to go with the Bucs corners. I believe in Zion McCollum. I think he's been really good this season. And Jamel Dean maybe doesn't get the interceptions that you want, but he's usually pretty solid in coverage. He's fast, and he gets a good amount of pass breakups. So I'll go with the Bucs corners with the caveat that, Neighbors and the groin injury may limit him fairly.
Yep. Next key matchup is outside linebacker Yaya Diaby versus left tackle Jermaine Illuminor. He is replacing Andrew Thomas, and he's not very good. Diaby has gotten pressures aplenty. He is in the top 10 in terms of pressures. He only has 2 sacks and has not been able to finish. Is this the week where he finally gets another sack? The last time he got a sack was against Lamar Jackson, so it's been several weeks since he has gotten to the quarterback and made it count. Jermaine Illuminor has a 66 pass blocking grade according to Pro Football Focus, so he's not awful. But how do you see this matchup, Matt?
I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I said for Kalijah Cansey to prove it to me, and he did. He went out and got 2 sacks. I also said the same thing for Yaya Diaby. Like, I can't keep picking Yaya when he just doesn't get to the quarterback. Yeah, he's getting the pressures and la-di-da, fantastic. Let's give him a standing ovation for, generating all of these pressures. But, Yaya's there to get sacks, and he's not. So I have to take a push until I see something differently from Yaya.
I think that's fair. I'm going to go with the push as well. We're going to round out the show today with the Bucs safeties versus Tommy DeVito. We say safeties because no safety has an interception yet in Tampa. Jordan Whitehead has underperformed at strong safety. Antoine Winfield Jr. has actually been awful in coverage as well. No interceptions for him. He has a scoop and score. Maybe the return of Mike Edwards, the sticky-fingered pass intercepting guy, can come back and maybe see some time in dime defense, or maybe platoon with Jordan Whitehead at the strong safety position and make a splash in his return. Tommy DeVito does not turn the ball over much. He had 7 touchdowns and 1 interception in his starts last year. He does have 3 interceptions on his football card, but those came in backup duty. So Tommy DeVito's done a good job of protecting the football. The Bucs safeties, it feels like they need to make a play, whether it's Winfield, whether it's Whitehead, whether it's Edwards, or all 3 of them. They've got to do something from the safety position that is really underwhelmed in Tampa so far.
Yeah, this is another good reminder that in the 6 starts that Tommy DeVito had, he only had 1 game where he threw for over 200 yards. So I don't think DeVito is going to carve up the Bucs, even though their defense has been very poor this season. Maybe Mike Edwards has an impact. Maybe Antoine Winfield Jr. turns into the all-pro safety that we know that he is. But I'll take the Bucs safeties regardless because I don't really see how Tommy DeVito is going to beat them with his arm. If he does it with his legs, that's another story. But I'll go with the Bucs safeties.
Yeah, and I'm going to do the same, and I'm actually going to predict a sack for Antoine Winfield Jr. because I think the return of Mike Edwards will allow him to split some time with Whitehead. And when that's the case, I think that Todd Bowles feels more comfortable with Edwards playing back deep. That'll allow Winfield to come up in the box, in the slot, maybe get a sack off the edge. So We'll see if that's the case. The Buccaneers, I'm with you, Matt. They need to get this win today. They need to stay healthy, but it wouldn't hurt to have one of those feel-good, convincing wins against a team that has lost 5 straight, that is starting a third-string quarterback in Tommy DeVito, and they need to make him look like Danny DeVito today by 4 o'clock.
Yeah, I think the Bucs need to instill some hope. Like they've lost 4 straight. They need to believe in themselves again. And I think winning in a convincing way, winning where it's not stressful or close towards the end of it, will help out in droves. So that's my hope for the Bucs today.
Yeah. Well, listen, we are just a couple hours away from kickoff. And of course, that means Pewter Game Day with Matt Matera and Josh Capo right here on Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel. You can also watch it on pewterreport.com. It will also stream live on X and Facebook on our @PewterReport accounts. So make sure you tune into that. And here's how you view Pewter Game Day. You watch the game on TV, just like the guys are, and you turn down the volume. Why? Because you're going to get nothing but the Bucs feed. And what I mean by that is the insight, the analysis, the expertise about the Buccaneers from Matt and Josh, and not some biased announcers against maybe the Buccaneers as you get with certain announcers. So check that out. That'll be 1 o'clock, Pewter Game Day right here on Pewter Report TV on X, Facebook, and pewterreport.com. And then we'll have a Pewter Report postgame podcast probably around 4:30, 4:45 after Todd Bowles and Baker Mayfield speak. Then you can join Matt and I right here on Pewter Report TV for our postgame podcast. Hopefully it will be a victory for the Buccaneers, and that would mean a long-awaited victory Monday on tomorrow's show at 4 o'clock, which we haven't had in a long time.
Yeah, that's right. So come on through for it all. Would love for you to join us. And in the meantime, make sure you follow us on all of our social media at Pewter Report on X, Facebook, and Instagram. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Pewter Report TV. Leave a comment on this channel as well. So, that'll do it for us on this morning's show. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you later on for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.